So, Tarunika told me that I need to take a lecture, a class, and I thought that, what class will I take with all the, learned faculty members? But having said that, I think we all keep learning. Every day is a learning, and especially with the financial planning, the most important thing is that the dynamics change so much, and every client is unique. The requirements are so dynamic that it's a learning every day. So every day is a class for us. So yeah. So before I take, on the case studies, what I've done is I've put up some, slides on the key challenges related to financial planning. What are the important things? And keeping that in mind, I'll try to tell you the perspective, how one should be doing financial planning and how it is so interesting. It's a science, but at the same time, it's an art. It's not something, a formula which you can write in a paper which can be applicable for everyone, but it's very interesting. So talking about the retirement planning and financial planning, there was a research done by Reserve Bank of India a few years back, and it had done a study that about the retirement planning, how many of the people in India are planning to retire. So it said that 13% of the population are planning for retire, 10% are planning, 33% are not planning, and 44% of the population don't expect any kind of retirement, which means almost a quarter of the people are planning, and they can look forward to good retirement. But there's almost half a population, 50% of the population, which are not going to see any kind of retirement. They will have to be dependent on the children and or the grandchildren, and they are expecting that they will be taken care that ways. But having said that, the financial planning, if done well, it can definitely help maybe 33% this population who are not doing any planning, and even those who think that they cannot retire. But I think if investments are done early and planned well, even they can see good amount of good retirement. So definitely it's a big challenge. And yeah, now we all know about inflation, and the biggest the challenge which everyone faces, I don't know if you guys have realized or not, is the inflation. Inflation erodes the value of the capital every year. This chart shows that how 100 rupee value, the purchasing power of that keeps reducing, and by the end of 30 years it becomes equivalent to 17 rupees, and almost like in 10 years the money becomes half. So if you have 100 rupee today, and if it's not growing, and if it's parked in your bank, or it's not growing efficiently, then you will see a significant erosion of your value or the capital. Now this is assumed at 6%. Now let me tell you over here that inflation, the 6% is reported for all India. It takes that what India consumes, but the HNIs or the middle class or the upper middle class experience much higher inflation. According to me, they experience an inflation of 8 to 9%, especially in terms of education, healthcare, fruits, vegetables. The inflation is much higher. So I think the only thing which you need to worry, or anyone has to worry, is about inflation. And any investments, anything which you do, you need to ensure that it grows at least at 8%. So inflation is something which is very important. The third biggest challenge is your life expectancy. And this is a life expectancy chart of India. In 1960s, the life expectancy of anyone in India was around 40, and now it is at around 69.4, and every year it keeps going up. As per research, every year which we live, the life expectancy goes up by another 6 months. So maybe next 20 years, India's life expectancy will be at around 80. In US, we have life expectancy of around 79. So, maybe next 30, 40 years, we all are expected to live maybe 90 years or even 100 years. So that is something, which we have to consider, because after retirement, the different kind of costs comes in. So life expectancy is good in a way, but also, increases our financial requirement. The fourth interesting challenge is your household savings and investment rate. This chart shows, what has been the household savings as a percentage of GDP in India. In financial year 2012, it was around 23%, and it has now fallen to around 16-17%. Of course, in the COVID years, last 18 months, it has gone up because the spending was not happening so much, but it continues to come down. And one of the primary reason for this is thought process of zindagi na milegi dobara. People want to live in today, which is good also. One should not be too much looking for future. One has to have also balanced perspective, but it's also important that everyone makes a proper balance, that you're spending now and also making right investments, saving enough for your future. Now, this is again, very interesting challenge, which is part of the financial planning. This chart shows that the peak earning years. So for this was, globally the data which came. For a woman, the peak earning year is at around 40, and for men, it is at around 55. Now, this was taken few years back. Now, the interesting thing is that this peak earning year keeps reducing. So, when I started my career in financial planning and investments, a typical client used to be a CEO or a CXO who used to be in his late 50s, and he was, at his peak here. Now, a typical client, is in the age of 40, 45, and 50s on the upper side. So what is happening? The peak year is reducing. Organizations these days prefer young people. You will see many, young CEOs. And so, I think if someone, leaves a job after 50, it will be difficult for him to get a similar job. So what is happening? The peak year is, reducing. And so typically, if someone starts working at the age of, let's say, 24, 23, so earlier if he was working till 60, now that is reducing. So one has to have enough money, earn enough money, as of now, maybe till 50. But in next 10 years, the peak earning year will further come down. It will come down to 45 or even 40. So you have limited years of, working and earning enough money, which will take care of your retirement needs, which will run even till the age of 100. So, that's where the interesting challenge comes. So when you do financial planning for anyone or even for yourself, you need to consider these aspects. It's not that you made a financial planning once and it's a one-time exercise and done. It has to be done every year. The dynamics keeps changing. And it's not just about inflation, even the lifestyle. People are upgrading themselves so fast. People need better cars, people need better houses, so even the lifestyle and all, the growth is much higher. So these are some interesting things which, when you do financial planning or even for your own investments, you have to keep this in mind. And then you have the nuclear family and the joint family. These days the families are nuclear. Earlier the families used to be joint. So if some members are not earning enough, or if there are any kind of challenges which comes, any by reason the earning stops, the family used to be large. They always staying together, and they were all taken well care. It did not matter whether you saved enough for your retirement, and whether you have enough when you stop working, or if there's any kind of emergency. Now it's more about nuclear family, which means you cannot go wrong in your calculations. You don't have, I mean, most of the people these days, you don't have siblings, or even the children. There are one or maybe two, so you cannot go wrong. This man or the woman who's the the bread earner, he can't really afford to go wrong. So one has to be very sure. So the financial planning has to be waterproof, and have to ensure that these things are taken care. These are dynamic situations. Yeah. And then you have lack of investment awareness. Uh, Despite a lot of awareness, of course, it has increased in the last few years. But majority of the people are, not very comfortable with, equity or different kind of assets where returns are higher, and some maybe it's because of the bad experience, or people feel it's speculation, gambling. And even when I say, I meet up with a lot of clients, highly educated people, highly successful people, but when it comes to investments, when it comes to stock market, when it comes to equities, they are so cautious. Maybe the learning is not enough, maybe they had bad experiences. But I think it's very important that the investment is taught in colleges. I'm so glad that in the college the subject is taken. In fact, it should be taught in all the schools, because at some point of time, everyone has to deal with the money management. So yeah, but as of now, the challenge continues, right? So I spoke about different challenges. Now, what does financial planning does? What is the core objective of financial planning? It's simply to ensure that you celebrate life, clients celebrate life. It's a happy living for them. So all the challenges which I told you about, it's not that they play out always, but financial planning protects you from those challenges. It ensures that irrespective of whatever surprises life gives to you, the plan will protect you from those surprises. The plan or the system should be so strong that the surprises should not hit us. And that's what financial planning does. Now, financial planning can be very simple also. A financial plan can be written just in maybe 5 lines. That's it. And if you do Google, you will find many one-page financial plan, and they're not bad. They're pretty good. And but what happens when there are special situations? Those plans sometimes fail, and because they are not customized to individual needs. It's very important that softer aspects, the qualitative aspects of the family is taken into consideration. So what I'll do, I'll tell you briefly that how does a simple plan looks like, and then as a case study, I'll show you that how one small information can change the whole gamut. Okay. So typically, this is a simple pyramid of investment planning. Anyone, this is applicable for even someone who is starting a career or someone who is retiring. This is applicable for everyone. It starts with the health insurance. This is a must. You cannot, and I think COVID has taught us this, that health insurance is very important. And in India, the premium is very less. It takes care of the medical requirement. Then you have the term insurance. It protects, it against any unwanted event in the life. It's a risk coverage. Your family gets the money. Contingency corpus, maybe 6 months of expense or 12 months of expense can be set aside as a safe investment. And then, you take care of any expenses which are shorter term, you park in safe, and then which are long-term investments, you plan that with a higher risk. And in the last, it's the will. So typically, this is the pyramid. And it's a very simple pyramid. And I think anyone and everyone should follow this pyramid. And if you follow this pyramid, you won't go wrong. Okay. And these are the steps also which we take. Of course, each one of them will have their own complexities. And you want to decide how much health insurance you want to take, for how many years, whether it has to be, let's say till the age of 40, 50, 60. What are the different other features you want to take? Similarly, in the term insurance, how much contingency you should take, what kind of instruments should be used. With investments, the options are pretty large. The universe is pretty large. And then the will is there, or a private trust is there. how you figure that out, it's, it can be very detailed, but these are simple 4 steps, 6 steps, which, ensures that, the financial planning or retirement planning or investment planning can be done with your money. Now, I was just, doing Google and trying to find out what was happening. And then I'm sure you must have read about it. 100 minus rule, your age rule. You divide, in the sense, not divide, you subtract, your age from 100. So if someone is, let's say, in 30s, 100 minus 30. So it will tell that how much should go into, aggressive investments, high risk, high return, 70%, like, investment stocks, mutual funds, 30% can be in safe investments. So if someone is in the 40, you subtract 100, from 40, you'll get 60% in risky investments, 40 in safe. Similarly, for 50, it's 50-50. Someone in, who is 60 years, it will show 40-60. So similarly. And I think this is also the thought process which most of us carry, because, people feel that when someone is young, he needs to be aggressive. And when someone is old, 60s, 70s, the portfolio should be stable, should be conservative. And, because you want wealth protection is your top priority, you want to consume. That's a, simple thought process which everyone carries. But let me tell you, this is a very, very generalized thing. It's not applicable a lot of times, though majority of the time this is fine. You won't go wrong with this. I should say around 70-75% of the times, it should be fine. This is a raw way of doing it. But there are, other nitty-gritties, other fine points which a financial planner or an advisor has to keep in mind. So as a case study, I have just taken some examples. Okay. So I've taken an example of a couple in 60s, early 60s, and I'll be using the same example with different scenarios to show that how situation will change for them. So a couple in 60s with no big financial liability, the children are educated, married and settled, has a corpus of 5 crores and don't have much knowledge of capital market. Okay. So, maybe can anyone suggest in the chat that what percentage should be in equity for them or in risky investments? You can put the message in chat, 40%. It will be good if, people participate more. Let's see what answers we get. We have 30%, 40. So I think the rule of 100 minus age is being used. Okay, 30%, 30%. Okay, super. So see, a very important information which is given over here is that they don't have much knowledge of capital market. Now, typically what happens, the most important thing when we do investments for our clients is, there's a litmus test that client should have a sound sleep in the night. Okay, he should not be worried about investments. That's the last thing you want to do, especially when you're retired. So, it's very important that whatever suggestion you do, whatever portfolio you construct, it should not give sleepless nights to the client, to him. So one important information is that he doesn't have much knowledge of capital market. Though his situation is comfortable, there's no big financial liability and 5 crore is a decent corpus. But since his knowledge of capital market is less, I'll start with less exposure to equities, maybe, 20-25% or maybe 30%. A lot of people gave 30% as answer, which is fair. And because I don't want to put a lot of money in equities, and suddenly, because equities, the market can be very volatile. It can fall. And, because it doesn't understand the capital market, there's always this risk. So I'll put maybe around 25% for him in equities. Okay. So let's look at this from a different perspective. Now, a couple in 60s, same couple with no big financial liability, has a corpus of 5 crores and has a good knowledge of capital market. So, according to you guys, what do you think should be the allocation to equities? If you can put the comment in the chat, 50, 60. I need more answers. 50, 60, 40, 50. So the answers are in the range of 40, 50, 60. And, all of you are correct. And, it will be in the range of between 40 to 60. The average allocation will be depending on, how much he's comfortable with. Because when we talk to the client, in the initial discussion, we try to understand a lot of things from him. What is his risk profile? We ask different questions. We try to understand what has been his experience, which tells us what will be more suitable. But somewhere between 40 to 60 is the right answer. So thank you, everyone. Most of you are right. It will be for long term, and because they're retired, they don't have any big financial liability. So the portfolio will continue maybe till the time they live. So if they have a life expectancy of 80, 90, then the portfolio will be there around for 20 years or something like that. Now, some changes. A couple in 60s with no big financial liability is a corpus of 50 crores and has good knowledge of capital market. So now, what will be the allocation? So I've changed the amount from 5 crores to 50 crores. So what do you think should be the money in equity? Devendra ji is saying 90. 60, 70. 75. Dr. Promila is saying 75. Shruti is saying 70. 70. You guys are all intelligent. I don't think, that's what I told what class. I'm teaching, I'm giving a session to teachers. So everyone is already so educated and knowledgeable. So you guys are all right. In the sense it will be in the range of, maybe 60 to 90%. It will be more aggressive portfolio because he doesn't need so much of money. Whatever for contingency, even for 5 year, 10 year of expense, you put in the debt. 4-5 crore rakh loge. Beyond that, he doesn't need. Right? And what happens after some point of time, the family or the parent has to start thinking about inheritance. Out of 50 crores, eventually most of it will go to next generation who are young. And then the planning has to be done as per them. So, that's where, higher allocation to equity comes. Now, let's try to change the situation further. Same couple, 50 crores. If they don't have much knowledge of capital market, how much will you allocate? They have not invested much in capital market, but they have a corpus of 50 crore. So what will you be doing? 40, 50. Rajeshwari is saying 40, 50. What about others? 30, 40. 30. Taunika is saying 25. Raman is saying 20. Shruti is saying 60, 70. Dr. Kaur is saying 30. Okay, so we are having a lot of mixed answers, and this is one of the toughest one and the most interesting one. Okay. So what I'll be doing is I'll be starting with 25. Okay. And what is more important is that they don't have knowledge of capital market. If you allocate higher amount of 60, 70%, if market falls, see, equity market can even tank by 40, 50%. I won't be surprised. One, when you put the money in equities, there are two litmus tests for that. One, in a given year, are you comfortable with 50% drawdown? Second, are you comfortable that if equity doesn't gives you return for even 10 years? Both the situations are a possibility. It has happened in the past, and it may also happen in the future. So if the answer is yes to both the situation, that's only when equity makes it, sense to any investor. Right now, what has happened? People have seen good rally. A lot of investors feel ek do saal ke liye paisa dal do, but it doesn't work like that. One has to be, prepared for the worst case scenario. We run Monte Carlo simulation on various plans. So similarly, you have to, as I told in the beginning, the core objective is for the family to celebrate life. We can't go and say, sir, ye to extraordinary condition ho gayi hai, and loss ho gaya. It doesn't work like that. You have to be right always. See, the most important thing in financial planning, a financial planner is like a heart doctor. Okay, he cannot go wrong. When I say heart doctor, वो mistake नहीं कर सकता. Anyone who has to die, वो तो खैर मतलब can't do much about it. But he can't say that, okay, I committed mistake, मैंने planning ठीक से नहीं की. Because it's a hard-earned money. See, if I'm putting money for your behalf, or if you're putting even your own money, you get only life once. You can't say, अच्छा, during my earning years, मैंने उड़ा दिए पैसे, and now I have to start again. You can't start your career again. Similarly, you can't go wrong. So it has to be foolproof. So in this case, what I'll be doing is I'll start with 25. And my focus will be on continuous education. For 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, I continue to educate clients that, what is equities? How does it work? Why is it important to increase allocation? So that he becomes more and more comfortable. And eventually, I'll try to ensure that the journey moves from 25 to 75%. But it may happen maybe in 1 year, 5 year, or 10 years. That will depend on the pace of the couple, the comfort of the couple. But I'll start at 25 and gradually take him to 75. So that's the goal, the role of a good financial planner. Hand holding and ensuring that the optimization comes gradually. A lot of time as a financial planner, we don't do things which makes sense. See, what I feel is right is something different. And what is right for the client is something different. They are two different things. This is what I think is right. This is what is right for the client. So we have to keep this aside. I know that 75% iske liye equity acha hai, but it's not suitable for him now. I have to see what is suitable for him and gradually move in from here to here. The journey has to be smooth. Okay. Now here is a case. I think this will be the case for a lot of professions and a lot of people who will retire in Delhi University. A couple in 60s with no big financial liability has a corpus of 2 crores and don't have much knowledge of capital market, retired from government job and has a pension. So what should be the asset allocation for, what should be the exposure in equity? Couple in 60s with no big financial liability has a corpus of 2 crores, don't have much knowledge of capital market, retired from government job and has a pension. Okay, Rajeshwari is saying 20-30. Dr. Promila is saying 70, 60. Meenu is saying 20, Shruti is saying 30, 40. 20-30. Sonam is saying 20-30. So again, we are getting a lot of mixed answers. Sonam is saying 30. And Najee is saying 50. Okay, so we have from 20 to 50 to 70. Very interesting, isn't it? All, similar profile people, different background. For some, we are saying 25, for some, we are saying 75, and some we are saying 50. Small information, but important information. Now I'll tell you, and see, let me tell you, there is no right or wrong answer. In financial planning or investment, there is no right or wrong. So what I'm saying may not be necessarily right. Okay. It's my perspective, and if it works, then I am right. If it doesn't work, you never know. And so that's how things are. But let me tell you my perspective. See, what is happening is that the most important information in this is that they don't have knowledge of capital market. So when someone doesn't have enough knowledge, I cannot allocate higher equity exposure in the beginning. right? And the reason purely being he may not be able to handle 50% crash. Excuse me. So for this couple, if I put 75 rupee out of 2 crores, if I put 150, 100, 1.5 crore in equity, and if tomorrow there is a loss of 75 lakhs, they won't be able to handle it, right? Because they will say, "Kya kiya tumne? I was earning 6-7% in FD. What have you done?" So this is a very interesting information and the most important information. Whenever the person doesn't have any knowledge, the allocation has to start with this 25%. Now, what is happening? This second information is very important. Retired from government job and has a pension. If this would have not been there, then I would have, started with 25, gradually I would have increased to 30, 35. I would have not gone very aggressive in his late years. But a government employee or someone who has a pension has a big safety net. So when the pension comes in your account, you should, find out the present value of that pension. Okay. And because you should consider that there's a corpus of yours, which is lying with the government, which is like a FD with the government. And from that FD, you're getting interest, monthly interest. So for example, if you're getting 60,000 a month of, pension. So in a year, you're getting 7.2 lakhs. And let's say, if you're getting interest of, let's say 7.2% on that. So you can imagine that the corpus with the government is around 1 crore. And that 1 crore corpus is like a government bond. It is for you and it is a very safe investment. So one should assume that this couple doesn't have 2 crore. He has 3 crores. 2 crore is this money which they have in the bank. And 1 crore is with the government, which is a bond. So totally he has 3 crores. Out of that, 1 crore is already very safe. So with the 2 crores, he can take much higher risk. Okay, maybe, with the 2 crore, he can even try to increase the exposure to 50%. So in this case, we will start with 25%. And maybe, in 5 years, 10 years, I'll go to 50%. Okay, but the journey will be gradual. And especially, with the retired people who may not be very comfortable with, any market volatility, you also have to consider the health aspect. They're prone to heart attacks. They're prone, you don't want to give them any stress, especially from markets. And so, but, in his case, we have to educate, start with 25 and go to 50, actually, but at his own pace. If he's not comfortable, don't push him at all. Don't push it at all. Make it gradual. So does this sounds interesting? Yes or no?
It definitely is for everyone, I'm sure.
Very nice. Thank you so much. So let's take one more case study. It will be last case study. And now we will take a younger couple, which I think most of you all are. I don't know the age profile, but let's take a younger couple. Okay. Now let's talk about this couple. Couple in the 30s with a corpus of 10 lakhs and has good knowledge of capital market. Okay. So a young couple, a working couple, one of them is working or maybe both of them are working, has 10 lakhs, good knowledge of capital market. So how much will you put in equities? So everyone, let's see what answers you have. 70 to 80%, 70%, 70%. Okay, most of you are saying 70%. Rajeshwari is saying 70, Tarunika is saying 75. Tariq Ji is saying 50, Dr. Kaur is saying 50, 70, 75. Okay. Okay. Saurav is saying 690. So some people are saying 50, a lot of them are saying 75, 90. Okay. I'm not going to put 75, 90% or even 50% equity for them. And I'll start with a conservative one. I'll tell you why. See, if you remember the pyramid said health insurance, term insurance, contingency, and short-term investments. So we have to understand from this couple, have they kept enough money for the contingency? Maybe 6 months of expense, maybe 9 or 12 months of expense have to be in safe investments. Okay, maybe FDs or debt funds, and out of 10 lakhs, so let's say, next 6 months or next 9 months of expense is 8 lakhs, then I'll want to park 8 lakhs in the debt. I should protect that. And because contingency is a very important factor. It's an important factor because, see, life is full of uncertainties, and it's full of risk. Anything can happen. Tomorrow there can be recession, there can be job losses, there could be health emergencies. One needs to have enough money to handle this uncertainties. See, one cannot do much about uncertainties. Jo hona hai hoga. Covid hona tha hoga. One can't do much. But having a contingency corpus is the best way to be prepared for that contingency corpus. And let me tell you an interesting definition of risk. What is risk? Risk is something which you cannot visualize and prepare about. जो आप सोच नहीं सकते हो, जो आप सपने में भी नहीं सोच सकते हो, और जिसकी आप तैयारी नहीं कर सकते हो, वो होता है रिस्क. बिकॉज जो आपने सोच ली और जिसकी तैयारी कर ली, फिर तो रिस्क हुआ ही नहीं. So, you have to prepare for that worst thing. Suddenly I've seen so many, I deal with a lot of clients, and maybe I've made financial plan for 300, 400 people. When problems come in life, everything happens together. Job chali jayegi, health problems aa jayenge, divorce ho jayenge, and, suddenly everything goes by storm. And so what is important? Ki wo corpus wo banaye. And maybe what I can do is, once that contingency corpus is protected from the future inflow, whatever savings they are doing, I can start monthly investments or SIPs in equities. I will gradually build up that. But it's very important that I take care of it. Okay. And if they tell you that, okay, I've already prepared for it, and then of course you can take higher risk. So let's change this case study more a bit. Now, a couple, same couple in 30s, excuse me, has a corpus of 1 crore, has very good knowledge of capital market, and plan to buy a house of 90 lakhs after 3 years. So what do you think for him? I'll repeat, a couple in 30s with a corpus of 1 crore, has very good knowledge of capital market, and plan to buy a house of 90 lakhs after 3 years. So how much equity will you recommend? 10, 20%, 40%, 20%. Meaning you're saying 50%. I need more answers. It's not an easy one, guys. It's a very interesting. It's not an easy one. Kaushik is saying 30. $25. Poonam is saying 25. Nirmal is saying 30. Need more growth to buy the house. So 70% in equity. Can invest in equity more for down payment required for house. Najee is saying 20. Jitendra is saying 15. Okay. Okay. So a lot of interesting answers, and most of you are correct. Now, what I'll be doing is I will be not allocating more than 20-25% in equities. And what I will also be doing is I'll be reducing this equity every year. See, when you put the money in equity, the recommended time horizon is at least 5 years. 5 to 7 years ka jo paisa nahi chahiye, the goals which are after 5 years, only for that you can have equity exposure. And for 3 years is too short a period of time. In fact, if you ask me market ko kya hoga, no one knows. 1 year, 2 year, even 3 years is a very tough call. And so, out of 1 crore, maybe I'll allocate 25% in equity, 75% in debt, and next year I'll reduce it. Bring it down from 25 to 50. And then after that, I'll further bring it down to 5-7%. Because as you're getting closer to the goal, you have, there has to be certainty. When you have to buy a house, if they are dead sure that if the house has to be purchased after 90 years, You really can't take that kind of chance. The money has to be available. So when we do a financial planning, we give assurance to our clients. Of course, it's not a guarantee. SEBI doesn't allow us to use a guarantee. Some kind of assurance that whatever is the market condition, however the uncertainty it is, the financial planning will ensure that whatever are the goals of the family, whatever is the lifestyle of the family, it won't get affected. A good plan is which can absorb all the uncertainty, all the volatility, all the risk, and still deliver. And it doesn't happen in all the cases, but jiske bhi plan mein aaye, that even 1% possibility, probability has to be covered. Okay, so this is the situation. Now, same client, same couple, 30s with a corpus of 1 crore, has very good knowledge of capital market and plan to buy a house of 90 lakhs after 3 years. One additional information is stock market is down. Let's say March 2020, last year, COVID. So what will be the asset allocation? So let's see what are the answers now. Nirmal says 40. 30, 40. Tawnika is saying 50. Najia is saying 30, 40. More answers. Come on, this is interesting. Poonam is saying 35. Jitendra is saying 25. Abhay is saying 20. Not to invest. Devendra ji is saying not to invest. Soumya is saying 40. Silky Jain is saying 20, 30. No one should invest borrowed money to earn more and more. Sushma is saying no one. Absolutely. Absolutely. Correct. Saurav is saying 40. Okay. So, 20, 30, 40, 50. Very interesting. And all of you are right. See, you are giving answers from a perspective of what you think is right, right? And if that makes you happy, then you should do that. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll deploy maybe 50-60% of the corpus in equity at that point. Maybe it's a surprise for a lot of you, a lot of people over here, but it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. It doesn't matter, but March market was down 40-45%. It's a phenomenal opportunity, and because from there I have 3 years time. And normally, if you look at the history of stock market, whenever there has been such a sharp drawdown, market normally comes back in 1.5-2 years, worst case, and 3 years is a pretty long time. And maybe if they're planning to buy a house of 90 lakhs, I can tell them that you will be able to buy a house of maybe 1.4 crores if the bounce back happens right. So I'll go pretty aggressive on equity buying. Let me tell you a very interesting insight. Have you guys read the book Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham? Have you guys read it? Those who have read, type yes in the chat box. Tanika is saying yes. Let's see how many yes we have. Come on, guys. I need more yes. It's a thick book. I don't know if I have it over here. No, it doesn't. Seems to be based on the survey. Jitendra is saying yes. So we have 57 people in the audience. And let's see how many yes we have. 3. Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. That's the book name. The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. Okay, so maybe 5, 6, 7, and which is not a very big number. Let me tell you about this book. It is the Bible of investments. There has never been a finest book, written on this subject. It took me many years to read the book. It's a thick book, and every line is such a powerful line, which makes you think, and because it contains very powerful information, and it changes your thought process. So all of you order the book in Amazon today itself and do read the book. The goal of 2021 for all of you is, read the book. It will change your perspective. It will, the Intelligent Investor, it will change your perspective. Now, one interesting perspective, what the book writes about is that people think fixed income or FD or debt as a safe investment and equity as a risky investment. That's what we all think, right? Now, the book tells us that it's a wrong definition. Sometimes equity can be much, much more safer than your fixed deposit. And sometimes your fixed deposit or debt funds or any kind of fixed income investment can be far more riskier than your equity investments. Your governments can default, your companies can default, your banks can default, which can affect your fixed deposits. And sometimes, when markets are down, the probability of equity correction is so less that it starts behaving like a, from the bottom, the protection side like a debt, and with an upside of equity. So when you read this, it will change your perspective. Okay, so that's where I got this. I use that a lot, and I use that example for a lot of conservative investors. And that's why, in this case, though the stock market is down, but over here, the behavior of the asset class has changed.
G-O-double-G.
Okay. Yeah, the equity investment has become safer over here. Now let's look at this one. Same couple in 30s with no big financial liability, has a corpus of 50 lakhs and has a very good knowledge of capital market. Husband, who is the only bread earner, works in startup. So according to you, what should be the equity allocation for this couple? 60. Tariq says 60. I need more answers. 45. Sushma is saying 45. More answers, please. Nirmal is saying 30. I wish I could, this would have been a live session with everyone, in the sense I could hear everyone out why they are saying 70, 30, 45. Was the perception, was the logic behind that. Poonam is saying 70, Abhay is saying 15, 20, Saurav is saying 20, Rajeshwari is saying 60, 70. Nishi is saying 60. So just imagine how interesting and the dynamic the subject is. Though it's all maths, but everyone feel that the result is something different. Some people are suggesting 70, 60, 50, 30, 20. So everyone has different perception, right? So what I'll be doing for this couple, it will depend a lot on what kind of startup it is. How risky the startup it is, and if it carries low risk or high risk. If it carries very high risk and the probability of success is less, then I'll put only 25% in equity. Okay, and if the startup is stable and is getting some regular income, then I'll put maybe 40-50% in equity. If the husband was working in a normal job, maybe this couple should have had 70-75% in equity. Depending on the risk of the startup, the allocation of the portfolio will change. So, if you remember the example I gave for the 60s couple, a government job. So when you consider portfolio, you have to consider two parts of the portfolio: the money which you already have and the money which you're going to earn in the future. Okay, these are two things, and they have to be considered like one portfolio. Now, in this case, since he's in a startup, it's like a VC investment, high risk investments. If he's already taking so much of risk in this part of the portfolio, and this is, see, a couple when he's young, he has 50 lakhs, but his future income, he's earning for next 30 years. The value is around, 5 crore or 10 crore, the present value of that. So if he's already taking so much of risk over there, then maybe this needs to be safer. So somewhere between 25 to 40% or 50%, depending on how rich the startup is, that's where the allocation will happen. So you see how interesting the things are. Those standalone formulas, general formulas of 100 minus age are not always applicable, and one has to look at special things, and there are many more. I can make maybe another 5-6 more different variants of this, that how things change and so every client is different, every investor is different, and as a financial planner, as an advisor, you have to ensure that whatever you're suggesting to him is suitable. Okay. So if I have to summarize everything and say that, okay, what are the key things? Financial planning is not just about maths and asset allocation. It's not just science. It's also an art. It's about how suitable the investments are. What is suitable, as per the behavior and requirement of the clients. Behavior is a very important aspect, and I think knowing behavior finance is carries much more weight than anything else. And I think it's more about a continuous education and hand-holding through market cycles. So it's not a one-time exercise. It has to be done regularly. The situations are changing, the dynamics are changing. You try to learn as much as possible, try to get better and right perspective. And the litmus test of financial planning is, sound and happy sleep. If you're having your sound and happy sleep, I think the financial planning is good. When I say sound and happy sleep, it doesn't mean कि सारा पैसा आपने FD में डाल दिया या debt में डाल दिया. Because if your portfolio is earning less, then also you won't get happy sleep. You will feel यार कम कमा रहा हूँ, बगल वाले ने तो इतना कमा लिया, मार्केट चढ़ गई, ये हो गया, वो हो गया. You should be happy यार that मैंने कमाया. Whatever you earn is good. So that what means sound and happy sleep. So thank you so much, everyone. Here are my coordinates. I have here's my email ID. I'm based in Mumbai. Mobile number is given. You guys can reach out to me anytime. I'm also on Twitter, LinkedIn. You can follow me over there. And yeah, so that's about it from my side. Thank you so much for your valuable time and for all the participation. I thoroughly enjoyed. Yeah.
Thank you so much for such an engaging and exciting session. You just illustrated the inherent, biases that we all have while investing. Your experiences have thrown some light that financial planning is more like navigation, where we should know that where to start and where to go, and then it becomes simple. Thank you once again.
Dr. Sanu, sorry for interrupting. We have some time. We can put some questions.
Yes, sir.
She is a very experienced person, I know, right? So let the participant ask some questions.
Yes, sir. I was just about to ask that.
Right,
There's
right.
a question in the Q&A section. So, so we have a participant who's from a non-commerce background specifically. So this question is that what is better? A small SIP, example 2,000 rupees, or a large SIP which is ranging from 5,000 to 10,000 in case of equity mutual funds? Could you please suggest?
So I'll answer that. So Rajeshwi, what happens is, the quantum of SIP depends on how much savings you have. Okay. And let's say if you have a 2,000 savings, 5,000 savings, or 10,000 or 50,000. And if that money is for long term, if that money is for 5 year plus, you don't need and you want to do in equity, then it will make sense. And if the money is for long term, then you can do larger amount of SIPs also. You can even do 50,000 or even a 1 lakh a month. And it will depend on the scheme. Let's say you can, if you have a larger amount, let's say you're doing 50,000, you can do in 5 schemes or different types of 10,000 each. If you're doing 5,000, you can do 5 schemes of 1,000 each. If you want to keep it simple, you can also invest just in one scheme. You can put in, a Nifty index fund and just forget it. So, yeah, that's how it is.
हाँ जी सर बस 5-10 मिनट में शुरू हो रहा है.
Another question that we have is that should derivatives be a part of financial planning?
See, derivatives should be used for two things. One, primarily, it should be used for hedging. Okay. And for a lot of our clients who are sophisticated clients, when markets are expensive, when markets are overvalued, we take short positions on the market to reduce the beta or to reduce the market exposure, because a lot of time you don't want to sell the equity exposure because there's a tax angle and all those kind of things, and there will be exit charges. So in that case, you just take short position that will reduce your equity exposure, and derivatives getting used for hedging is fine. But for some extremely knowledgeable, extremely sophisticated clients, we use derivatives also for increasing the equity exposure in special situations, something like when the market has fallen and let's say equity market is down 30-40%, you can use derivatives to increase your equity exposure. And one should be very careful. They are weapons of mass destruction, and a lot of banks, a lot of institutions have got wiped out because of derivatives. But if used intelligently, which very few people can, then why not?
Can I ask one more question that's there in the Q&A section?
Yeah, please.
So ethical mutual fund is better or ELSS?
See, both are different categories. Okay. Now, ELSS gives you tax benefit under ATC. It has a lock-in of 3 years, and it's a normal equity fund investment. So if you have a requirement under ATC, then only you should do ELSS. If you don't have requirement under ATC, if you're covered through Provident Fund or PPF, that is the time you do ELSS. Now, ESG are special kind of funds. Okay, it has its own benefit, environmental, social, governance. Now, as per research, as per empirical research, both technically and fundamentally, ESG are supposed to give better return. Okay, the reason is, for example, if the governance of a company is good, there is a better chance that the corporate challenges won't come, and you will have less surprises. Then if it's an environmental, if it's an environment, then you're not going to put money in heavy industries, pollution generating industries, like steel, mining, those kind of things. And steel mining, normally, they have long cycles. And so the portfolio will be more tilted towards growth. And so typically ESGs, if you are conscious about being ethical investment, that, okay, I should have some ethical investment, then you should definitely do. But from an investment perspective also, you won't go wrong. Hopefully it will give you better than your other funds, but don't put everything over there, because if you've not done till now, if you have not thought about ethical funds so long in the life, suddenly don't become highly ethical and put everything in ethical funds. Diversify investments, maybe 10-20% is fine.
Okay, as you just finished answering a question, I think the participant is curious about Sharia-based mutual funds, and probably this will be the last question that we take for the session.
Yeah. See, even in the Sharia-based mutual funds, they are good investments, and see, it's a very personal choice. If you prefer those kind of investments, they are fine. And what will happen is that some companies will be removed from those investments. But I think it's absolutely fine. And because of those companies, you will not see the returns getting impacted a lot. Though I have not done, empirical study or have not come across research which says that it will be able to do better than the other funds. But for sure, it doesn't matter that few sectors are removed, and so I think it's absolutely fine. It will still. What is more important? See, let me tell you, funds are not important. Okay, let me tell you. I'll end the session with just one thing. आपने क्या fund लिया, कब लिया, कोई मायने नहीं रखता. So today, Sensex is at, let's say, 58,000 or let's say 60,000. Now, in 10 years, the Sensex will be most probably at 250,000, 2.5 lakhs loga. And maybe it sounds like a big number, but it's a simple calculation, right? It's a 14% CAGR. It becomes 2 raised to power, 2. It becomes 4. 4 times हो जाएगा. Now, आपने 60,000 पे लिया या 50,000 पे लिया या 70 पे लिया, it doesn't matter. अब आपने ESG फंड लिया, सरिया लिया, ELSS लिया, लार्ज कैप लिया, मिड कैप लिया, स्मॉल कैप लिया, doesn't matter. सवाल ये कि लिया नहीं लिया. नहीं लिया is a problem. लिया चलो 1-2%, 14 की जगह 16 मिल जाएगा, 12 मिल जाएगा. But what is important is you have to invest. Okay, so that's where the asset allocation is important. That's where the financial planning is important. Yeah.
What a wonderful note to end the session. And I am sure everyone will be taking this as a food for thought while they go back for their sound sleep tonight. Thank you. With a very happy heart and on behalf of the organizing team of Sri Aurobindo College, I would like to express a sincere gratitude. Thank you so much.